Bam! Jason Waller here, True Underdog, the Entrepreneurs Podcast, super successful. I have got some tips for you today. I've got a leader here today that has done many things. I'm super excited about this. Anybody ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire? You're going to love what I've got in store for you. We've got David Meltzer. He's an entrepreneur, keynote speaker, author, consultant, and business coach, and a philanthropist. How are you doing, David?
I am so excited to be here. Any show that's called The Underdog is my kind of show, man. Everybody loves an underdog. All my favorite movies are about underdogs. My life is about being an underdog. And I know you're an underdog. So I love the idea of this, and I love being here.
Hey, no, thank you. I'm super excited. I was reading some of your bio, and I'm sitting here looking, and we talked a little bit before we came on. And when I grew up, I always wanted to be like Jerry Maguire, right? So before we get started into that, because the movie's about your firm, about you, and about kind of what that is, which is super cool. But it wasn't always like that. And on our show, we like for all the listeners and viewers out there, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in sales, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a cop, whether you're a teacher, whatever, we all need some kind of motivation or advice to get over the hump and to know that it's okay. And really bringing you onto the show, they can hear your story and relate to you of what's going on. So I'm super excited. I want to start when you were a kid. You grew up in Akron, Ohio. You had 6 siblings and a single mom who worked 2 jobs, right? Your dad left when you were 5, and you wanted to become a millionaire to change things for your family. What was that like?
For me, it was interesting because I was super happy even though I was poor. So I don't like to put myself out like a total victim, although there was a lot of why me in my life, like why do other people have nice cars and dads and houses, and can they go to summer camp and they don't worry about college. But on the other side, I had these extraordinary siblings. I had 5 of them, 4 boys and a girl, 6 total. But my mom was an educator who, really made sure that we had a great, gracious perspective in life. So only time I wasn't happy as a kid was about money, right? Anything about money, I felt less than everyone else. I felt like a victim when it came to money. I felt like anything was against me when it came to money. And so living in a 2-bedroom apartment with all those kids, I decided, you know what, I'm going to buy my mom a house and a car. And I really related money to happiness, that money would buy me that last piece of happiness and love, that last piece that was always missing. And when you're a kid, when there's a piece missing, it seems like the whole is missing. And so for me, I worked so hard. Now, there's a lot of advantages. I'm not, and we'll go through my story as an underdog, but when I was young, there's a lot of advantages of only caring about money. Because, my mom cared about doctor, lawyer, failure. She believed fetus wasn't fully developed till after graduate school. I'm sure you have family and friends that wanted you to finish school and do what you. And for me, money was awesome because one thing I think, especially today, everybody thinks they need to be so specialized. And it pisses me off. You're on your 3rd business. You have multiple specialties. You keep your options open. Your blinders are open, not closed. But it seems like to me, the kids are getting more and more closed, one sport, one, specialty. And it pisses me off because if you want to be rich, like you and I, the advantage is you're always going to look for something that makes more money, right? You're always going to
change. You've got to change. You've got to adapt. You can't do the same thing every time, right?
Exactly. And so that was a huge advantage because my siblings were all, Ivy League schools, doctor, lawyers, really going within the system of how to build a stable life, and for me, that would have been prison. So even though I graduated law school and did very well and got a legal job litigating oil and gas, high paying, I chose to be a salesman. I chose to sell the internet in 1992. My mom freaked out. She said, the internet's a fad. You're blowing it. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. The internet, what are you thinking? You did so well. You're throwing it all away. Well, just because someone loves you, and this is the entrepreneur's motto, just because someone loves you does not mean they give you good advice. Especially most of our family and friends, when we have entrepreneurial ideas, they laugh at us, scoff at us, make fun of us because they don't want us to have pain in our lives. And one thing that's certain about being an entrepreneur is there'll be mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and financial pain. I promise you. But the difference is a true entrepreneur sees that pain as an indicator, a turn signal to move in a better direction, a better place, a better situation. Other people, the ones that go to law school and med school to be doctors and lawyers, they see pain as a stop sign, right? Oh, this hurts. I should be doing this. And our parents, they see pain as a stop sign. I don't want my baby to get hurt. Anyone that's been a parent, I don't know if you're a parent right now, but I'd rather cut off my hand than have my kid hurt, And so I can understand why they're not looking out for my best interest, especially as an entrepreneur who has to have pain and learn lessons from that pain. So 9 months out of law school, 1992, I was a millionaire, bought my mom a house and a car. Now, the irony of my life is everything after this point, until I lose everything, lost over $100 million, and everything up until my mid 30s reaffirmed that money buys love and happiness. 95 comes, we sell the company for $3.4 billion with a B. I go to the Silicon Valley. I learn how to raise hundreds of millions of dollars in the middleware space. I become the CEO of the world's first smartphone. By the time I'm 30,
Samsung, right? The Samsung
it's a
phone,
Windows,
right?
the first Microsoft phone and Samsung phone. They didn't even call them smartphones in '99. They called them convergence devices. So that was 1999. Really big. It's funny because they used to say they're so expensive and so big, no one will ever buy them. Have you ever seen the iPhone Pro? Man, that thing's bigger and more expensive than my phone was in 1999, and people seem to love it. Anyway. I ended up leaving there and being an entrepreneur, investor, met Lee Steinberg, most notable sports agent in the world, the one they based Cameron Crowe, the movie Jerry Maguire, off of it. And specifically for me, literally was on top of the world. Everything to that point, when I was running Lee Steinberg, I was around, we represented Aikman, Moon, Young, Sabathia, Ramirez, $2 billion in management. We had access to every sporting event. I mean, like you, I dreamed of having this access, right? And most kids do that can't play sports. If you can't play sports, you want to be Jerry Maguire. So
that's right.
Right. And so I had all this access. The problem was I lost my values and I surrounded myself with the wrong people, the wrong ideas. And I had a slow decline and ended up losing everything in 2008. And that's when I shifted the paradigm of giving in my life, shifted the paradigm of my values. And my wife saved my life by waking me up. And I've lived my life since, rebuilt everything. I started a company with Warren Moon, the Hall of Fame quarterback, called Sports One Marketing. Last 3.5 years, I built my own brand. I have one of the biggest middle-aged men brands in the world, personal brands. I top podcast called The Playbook that's around the world. I have literally, 2 TV shows. One is Elevator Pitch in season 6 that I executive produce. The new one is on Bloomberg, and I'm going to star you in it. I decided today. So we're going to get you in there. It's called The 2-Minute Drill. I speak around the world. I've written 4 books. All types of executive coaching for the biggest chairmen of the biggest companies down to entrepreneurs like yourself that want to reach that $1 billion mark themselves. So all of that has occurred through the lessons I learned and the perspective that I've gained.
So I have lots of questions now. So I'm going to start with I'm going to try to start it on the timeline as you were telling me everything. What you said resonates completely with me. When you're a kid and you don't have a lot, you think it's normal, doesn't bother you. You even said you weren't unhappy. The only time you were unhappy is when maybe you were at school and you didn't have the same clothing as other people or the same shoes, or maybe your mom brought you in a different car than other people. At least for me, that was a lot of
that was the worst, man. I hated that Ford Granada, man. I could not get out of that car.
My dad had like a 74 long Cutlass Supreme with no air conditioning, and we lived in Arizona, and he would joke, he called it 64, roll down the windows, and he's driving 60 miles an hour, 4 windows for air conditioning. It was the worst, and it was cream. I was always embarrassed. Drop me off the skating rink, drop me off down the road. Like, I get it. I totally get it. So that process, some people need to understand that you don't ever want to change anything you've been through, because it's what really defines you. It's what builds your character and your strength and your abilities. I was watching Tony Robbins recently on Not Your Guru or whatever. That was a great video. And he talks about, when you blame somebody for the bad you've got, you got to blame them for the good that you've got. And, people's upbringings, even though a lot of them are unfortunate, I've interviewed some people that their upbringing's 10 times worse than mine or yours could ever be, but they learned things and there's good qualities that come out of that. The other thing you touched base on, I think that's important that people need to understand, is when things are tough, opportunities. Entrepreneurs think, here's an opportunity. That's what you were discussing. That's what you were saying. Like the pandemic, our business tripled, right? Or when, in '08, when everything happens, and I saw that's when you lost your fortune and you started to build back, but you looked at it as an opportunity, a wake-up call. Entrepreneurs out there, or underdogs, as we like to call them, they find a way to make it happen. They don't take no for an answer. Of course, we fall. I always have a motto, right? There's no elevator in life. You got to take the steps. We fall down the steps all the time, but then you just got to keep climbing them. So I think that it's important that you share when you lost your fortune, when things went south, because you were on top of the world living your dream. And this happens. People always say, hey, it's not where you get, it's what you do when you fall down, right? You hit rock bottom and you start over. You're looking in the mirror. What are you telling yourself? What message could you give out there that you're actually saying to yourself to get back on the horse?
For me, it was interesting because I remember lying in bed for the first time depressed, right? Like I'm just an underdog, man. You cannot bring a bigger fight to me that I can't bring to you. But, they were moving me literally out of my house. They took all my cars except for one. I had 33 homes, a golf course, a ski mountain, just to give you a perspective of what I was losing. And thank God I didn't lose my wife, but I was on the edge still of losing my wife and worried about it. I had 3 daughters under 10. I was moving into a rented house with rented furniture and 1 car. Luckily, Lee Steinberg didn't fire me, which was one of my concerns. The other hard thing, as I lied there, I had to go tell my mom the day before, not only, the woman who raised me to be kind and considerate and responsible and doctor, lawyer, failure, all this. I had to go tell her, not only did I lose everything, but I had forgotten to take her house out of my name. So I had lost her house and she had to move. And so, that was a tough one to swallow. And so I was lying in bed, and universe, I says, you pay attention, you give intention, the coincidences you want to happen. So I'm lying in bed, and what comes on? Rocky 1.
I love the Rockies. I love the Rockies.
I know. So I'm crying, and there's Rocky getting knocked down. It's the end of the movie, and Apollo Creed keeps knocking him down. And you see him. I get choked up thinking about it, right? He gets back up.
I get goosebumps every time I talk Rocky. Go ahead. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember thinking in my head, watching his eyes, and he would look up, right? He'd look up at the corner guy, and he'd do the railing, push himself, and he'd get back up. And so I started just crying in bed, watching Rocky, telling myself, if you can look up, you can get up. Yeah. You can look up, you can get up. Let's stick to taking stock in who you were and what you want to become. It's your skills, your knowledge, your desire that's going to determine your attitude and your aptitude in life. It's going to be yours. You have a ton of skills. You got a ton of knowledge. You have the desire, and always have had the desire, to overcome any deficiencies you have in talent. You must be what you can be. Look up, get up, live with gratitude, which will give you that perspective. Let's find the light, the love, and the lessons in what has happened. Let's forgive ourselves, and so we can forgive other people. Let's be accountable. Ask yourself, what did you do to attract this to my life? What did I do to attract this to life? And what am I supposed to learn from it? And I'm going to, from now on, live an inspired life. No longer am I going to give to receive. I'm going to be a ferocious Buddha and receive so I can give. And from that day, 15 years ago, almost to the day, it'll be in December, 15 years, I've never looked back. There is no rear view mirror. I have lived my life with gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and inspiration. And I have built more than I've ever dreamed of. And here's the 3 worlds that I transitioned from. I grew up like you in a world of not enough. Things were happening to me, right? We were living in the 64 there. And so then I was a victim. Things happened to me. Then I got rich. And I lived in a world where I would buy things to be happy. If I wasn't happy, I'd buy more things. If I wasn't happy, I'd buy different things. If I wasn't happy, I'd buy things to impress people. If I wasn't happy, I'd buy things to impress people I didn't even like. That was the world of for me. Everything was for me. It's still a scarce world. I was going to live my life and have sense in a world of more than enough. I truly have blended 2 faiths in my life. One faith is a currency of money, an object of energy that I put into the flow to get what I want. And the other faith or currency is faith, an object of money that I put into the flow. I blend money and faith together. And I live in this world where I know that I live in between infinity and limitlessness. I live in a world of more than enough. Everything comes through me, not for me or to me, through me for others. And I keep expanding and growing. Like you were talking about re-engineering your next venture to have everything comes through you for your employees to change their lives. I'm on a mission to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. That's my mission. And I'm going to do it by making more money, helping more people, and having more fun with my life.
Well, I can tell you, it's inspirational to hear that. I'm a little younger than you. I'm 40, but I'm a grandpa, right? I call myself a gilf. I've got 4 kids. I've got a 22-year-old daughter, 16-year-old daughter, 13-year-old daughter, and a 10-year-old son, right? And now I've got almost a
Right. Hey,
two-year-old granddaughter.
You and I
I've
have the
been
same.
blessed.
We have this. You got to hear this. We got the exact. I got 21, 19, 16 girls and 1 boy, 10.
Oh, wow. Look at that, man. That's great. My son plays football and I get to watch him throw touchdowns, and he's really good, but he's so hard on himself and he gets mentally struggling, but it's so exciting. And I coach a girl softball, but that, when a couple of things that inspired me is, the last few years for me have really taken off. And the first business I did pretty good. The second business I did pretty good. This third business I opened up, that first year lost millions of dollars. Couldn't get I remember you were talking about crying. I remember crying at Disney, a trip I probably shouldn't have paid for. I paid for it early, and I was crying to my wife, like, I think we're gonna have to close the doors. I've never really failed before. And she's like, well, pray on it, think about it, do what you want. I woke up the next morning and I had this mindset of, you know what, I think of Wolf of Wall Street, but this was before this movie came out or around that. Like, they're going to have to throw me out. I'm fighting all the way through. So I came in, I sold my house on the lake. I had a house on the lake. I went downsized to a smaller home. Wife gave me the stink eye, and I put all in on me and Power Home Solar, right? When I did that, things started to turn. And then I started to take off, and the business has done very, very well. What I'm bringing up now is I see a therapist. I'm open about it. Everybody, whether you're depressed or you're happy, I believe people need someone to talk to sometimes to try to align things correctly. And one of the things she's told me is the more that you get, the easier it is to be depressed. And a lot of people don't realize that. And you touched base on that you were depressed when you lost everything, but also you just kept buying things to fill a void because you were lacking that happiness. And so that resurrects to me the feeling I get from doing a podcast, or I'm getting ready to write a book. I'm going to talk about your book here in a minute because I'm super excited to pick your brain. But anytime I can help somebody, you can't buy that. That's a feeling that it lasts forever. It's great to help your family and friends, right? That's important. And it's really great to help your employees, but to help a complete stranger is even another level that feels good. And so you being a philanthropist, and that's filling that void for you. When you transition to do that, would you agree that you can't buy that feeling? It's the best feeling in the world.
Right. So I think that's the shift. Exactly what you're talking about is I went from money buying love and happiness and everything I do to reaffirm that to understanding money. What money does is it allows us to shop. So, meaning when we shop for the right things, like helping people we don't know, building community centers in Africa, helping the Junior Achievement Program to build more young entrepreneurs like yourself to change the world. When we do things like that, and it takes money to do it, that's when we get fulfilled. So for me, money still plays an integral role in my life. I'm a capitalist. I'm a compassionate capitalist. I wrote a book called Compassionate Capitalism, but I believe in helping other people by receiving to give, and I have pure intentions of giving everything I receive to everyone else. I have everything I need or I wouldn't be here. So for me, you're exactly right. What's so fulfilling is shopping for the right things, but you still need money to shop for the right things.
I would agree. You wrote 4 books, you said, right? What are those 4 books?
So the first is Connected to Goodness, and I'm more than happy. Any of the books, any training, everything's for free. I'm on a mission to empower 1 billion people. So david@dmeltzer.com. Just email me exercises, guides, books, all free. I'll sign it, pay for shipping. It's not some kind of hokey dokey scam where people are like, hey, my book's free, but shipping's $10.
Oh my God.
So my first book is Connected to Goodness. And it is about taking your possibilities, making them probabilities, and turning them into your reality in a very systematic think and grow rich type of way. Very pragmatic spiritual book, the blend of those two things. The second book is called Compassionate Capitalism. It's about making money to help people, to receiving. If you have a problem receiving, read this book. It'll help you. The third is Creating the Life You Love. I wrote it with a man named Jack Canfield. He wrote a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul, sold over 500 million books. It's the most sold book next to the Bible, Chicken Soup for the Soul. So we wrote a book together called Creating the Life You Love, Unstoppable, kind of the underdog story. And then finally, my latest book is a big McGraw-Hill book, Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, Landry's, Golden Nugget. He wrote the forward for me. It's called Game Time Decision Making. And what we do is I teach 10 lessons on being happy, utilizing the biggest names in sports and entertainment and stories that I know about them on their true inner workings, the playbook to their success of how to be happy. And like I said, go ahead, David at D. Meltzer, reach out if you want to come to free trainings, books, exercises, guides, all for free. Don't worry.
Thank you, David. I'm getting ready to do a book. I have no idea where to start, right? I've never really read a full book. I've done some audio
You
books
never
and
have to write it. I don't write any books. I just outline and teach it. I'm going to teach you.
I
We'll,
hired
we'll write a book
Scribe
in
Media.
6 months. Bestseller, 6 months.
I hired Scribe Media. What do I do? I hire you as well? Tell me how to do
Well,
that.
I'm not nearly as expensive as Scribe. So yeah, I'll supplement and tell you because that's a good service to edit and to publish and all that stuff. But as far as the process of writing it, let me give you my inside secrets.
Please do. I need it because I have a lot I want to share and I don't even know where to start. I can't make a
I'll
book
teach
this
you so
big,
fast.
right?
I got a system. I got a system for the guys like Gary V, you, me, that never could even read a book. I have a system to write bestsellers that are so easy. As long as you can talk, I'll teach you how to write the book in 6 months.
We are connecting on that. Another thing I want to talk about that you mentioned is the the blinders being closed. And I know I've been guilty of this. Maybe you've been guilty of this with your kids, but I know when we were growing up in our generation, everything's judged. If you got to go to college, you got to go get a normal job. This is what it's about. You talked about it. And even though I didn't do those things or became an entrepreneur and your life transitioned to become an entrepreneur and build wealth and do great things, it's hard to not share that same feeling to your kids. My oldest, who's 22, I emphasized for her whole youth and high school. You got to do great. You got to graduate high school. I didn't. You got to go to college. And I set these barriers and expectations to where I'm almost setting them up to fail. So one thing, and I want your opinion on it, one thing I've transitioned to do now with my kids, she's 22. She didn't go to college. She barely finished high school. She, you know, she's a great mother. She's engaged to a great man. People say, do you like him? I said, listen, he's not a go-getter entrepreneur guy. I don't want him to be. He's the best dad I've ever seen at 21. Now he's 22, and he's the best fiance I've ever seen at that. I'd rather have that and me help them along the way than him try to take on the world and try to fill my shoes. And we've had that conversation. He comes from a rough life, and I've taken him in as my own. So that to me, as I've relieved some of that pressure on them, but I've got my 16-year-old, my 13 and my 10-year-old, and I want them to go to college if they want to, if they're going to utilize that. But, with 1,600 employees, we've probably got 1,200 of them that have college degrees they're not using in our organization. And so when I look at things like, for my kids, I tell them only go to college if it's something you want to do. You want to be a lawyer, you want to be a doctor, things that you need it for. If not, experience is so valuable. And I think that the pressure we put on kids today, at least I know I've been guilty of, to have to do that, we are limiting their capacity to be entrepreneurs. We're limiting their capacity of what they think is winning or failing or to be successful. You agree?
I absolutely agree. And I come from a long lineage of academics, a long lineage of Ivy Leaguers. I mean, I'm the low end of the academic gene pool. I'm not joking when I tell you that I could graduate summa cum laude from Harvard like my younger brother did and not stand out in my family. But just the fact that I started on a college football team, I'm the only one in my family that ever did that. But I believe that life is about four things: knowing your personal values, your experiential values. What do you want to experience? Even the only thing I would change in your philosophy is, hey, if you want to experience college, I don't give a shit. Like my kids, I let them know, look, there's sororities and there's like all these rich people and business networking. And look, you want to experience what it's like to sit in a classroom and to party all the time. If you want that experience in your life, I've worked my ass off to give that to you. If along the way you want to be well trained to be a doctor or a lawyer, an engineer, you need to go to college to be trained. But there's other places to train you to be in business and digital marketing and whatever you want to start a business. I'm all for it. You do not have to do anything. And what I want you to do though is to talk to me about when you want to do something, what options are available for you to best do that. Right? Find someone
Right.
that sits in a situation where you want to be and ask them for directions. Right? I'm a
Yeah.
big proponent of asking for help. And people ask me, Dave, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? I'll tell you, same thing, 28, 38, 48, now 52. I have two words on my nightstand: radical humility, because I know one thing: I don't know the totality.
Yeah.
There's an old saying, say we'll see. And there's a story about a farmer. He's sitting there and he has one son and one horse, and all the other community members are like, dude, you're going broke. You can't work your own field. You got a young son and an old horse. You're going to starve. And he just says, we'll see. Next day, the horse runs off. Everyone's all, you're going to die. We'll see. Next day, the horse comes back with two wild horses. Everyone now says, oh my God, you're the luckiest man. You have the most horses. This would be the best farm ever. He says, we'll see. Later on, the kid breaks his leg on the wild horse. Once again, everybody, we'll see, worst ever. Next thing you know, there's a war. They come for his son. He can't go because he has a broken leg. Saves his life. All the other boys die. He now, the son that stayed, runs all the farms, and right. So in life, you got to teach your kids, we'll see. I don't know what I don't know, but let's find someone
Yeah.
that's where you want to be and at least have them give you directions to angle to, and have faith that you'll end up somewhere better by doing your best and making money, helping people, or having fun. Whatever your values are, those are my values, right? When I tell people
Yeah.
happiness to me is making money, helping people, having fun. Happiness to other people, like my mom, second grade teacher, is just helping people and having fun. She doesn't
Yeah.
give a shit about money. She got me to give it to her.
You say it exactly right. And I think the experience is important. I didn't get to experience that, but my 16-year-old's like, oh, I'm leaving. When I'm old enough, I'm going to Florida or Arizona and I'm going to party at college. So I get the experience. I agree with you. The other thing that I think that is important that listeners understand as well is when we dictate happiness for people, for you and me, they're somewhat similar of what our goals for happiness is. But a teacher can be happy helping people. A doctor can be happy doing this. A lawyer, a mailman, whatever it is, happiness is individualized and it fills their hole. It's not about money. It's not about material things. And success and happiness to me are aligned, and it's whatever fills you up and brings you joy. And so I think, as our kids are getting older, again, I go back to the expectations. It's hard. Barry Sanders, I love Barry Sanders. I'm the diehard Barry Sanders fan. He's also a influencer for our company, and we're friends. I live up here in Michigan now, so we're good buddies. He's been in our commercial, and so he talks about his sons and how it's hard for them to live in his shoes and the expectation. His one son went to Stanford and now he works for EA Sports, but he's like, my kids have it hard because I'm Barry Sanders, and he's a humble dude, but he's like, we're having real conversation. And I know it's hard on my kids, and I'm always telling them, you don't have to conquer the world. You just have to be happy. When Alex asked for my daughter's hand, I said, dude, I don't care if you work at Walmart or you work at the trash company or you sweep floors at Target. What I care about is she's happy and she's safe and you guys are fulfilled with joy. If those things are happening, everything else will work itself out. And it's kind of like what you said, we'll see. Things work out the way they need to, but everyone's happiness is different. And I don't like the stigma that people think that you have to have money or rich to be successful. There's a plan and you kind of pick your plan, but your happiness is the lane that fits you best. And everybody's lane is different. You agree?
I absolutely agree. And I believe one more component of that to add is, your happiness is derived from pursuing what you want,
Yes,
not from getting what you want. And so
that's
if you
correct.
can find that perspective like you have, I can tell we just met today and I'm so impressed by you because I can tell
Oh,
you're someone that enjoys the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of your own potential, your story, what you value, but you don't put that
yeah.
on anybody else. Just because it's good for freaks like you and I doesn't mean it's good for our kids. And we have identical kids, same sex, same ages. So we're facing the same dilemmas. I will tell you, there's nothing dumber than a teenager. And I don't mean to offend any teenagers. And I was dumber than my teenagers. So I can't imagine what my poor mom went through. But, one thing about Barry Sanders real quick, because you'll love this. Barry knows me well. I did a commercial with Warren Moon, Joe Namath, him, Jerry Rice for the lottery. And Barry gave me an ESPN Classic hat, and he signed it. And I have a great sports collection. Well, anyway, I'm at my beach house, and I look over, and my wife's wearing this hat, and it looks so cool. I'm like getting closer and closer. I'm like, you gotta be. She tore the tags off, the stickers off. She's wearing my Barry Sanders signed hat. And I'm like, what? She's like, I just picked it out of the closet. I was like, I got way too many collectibles when that thing's just lying with all the other hats. Goodness. Yeah. But I told Barry, I'm like, I'm a huge Barry Sanders fan. I played, punt returner, running back in college. I'm built like Barry, just not nearly as good, not even close. But for me, it's just like, are you kidding me? This is my favorite hat. I was going to save it for my lifetime. Now it's just a beach hat. Anyway,
right, we got closing up. I can get you another one. He literally lives down the road. All right, last question. So I will absolutely. So last question would be on your show, the 60-second pitch, right?
Elevator pitch. So elevator pitch and 2-minute drill. So I got 1 minute and 2 minute.
1 minute, 2 minute, and their whole goal is to get investors to buy into to buy into their company. Correct?
So an elevator pitch, you get 60 seconds in an elevator, and the 4 judges decide, number 1, to let you out. Then they have to decide to fund you or not. And the rules have changed over the 6 seasons. I'm just the executive producer now because I'm hosting my own show. I was the host of that show for 5 years and executive producer. But my thing was I wanted to help entrepreneurs, and you'll get this. None of those shows are realistic about funding. Right? Dragon's Den, Shark Tank, elevator pitch. Most of the companies don't get funded, even though they fund them on the show because it's not realistic.
They get publicity.
Yeah. And so I felt, what is real? The pitch. The pitch is real. And if I give someone 2 minutes to pitch, and I don't care if it's, your wife pitching your kid to eat broccoli or, to do $1 billion raise, I can dissect and help with the pitch, bring on guest judges to pick the winners, to give the tip of the day, to ask a question. That's where I want you to come in because I need seasoned entrepreneurs that can pick out a pitch and say, hold on a second,
Yeah.
And really
I'm interested. I'm honored and interested because I love
that. Well, we'll promote your company. We'll promote your company and you. I think it's a great opportunity. So would love, I'll have Jake follow up today because we're going to be filming in December and we film virtually. So don't worry.
Hey, I'm not worried, by the way. I'm okay. I'll travel or remote. I'm good.
It's both remote or there. We'd love to have you in person. Anyway, I do want to, just finish up by telling everyone I do free trainings every Friday. They're free, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. All the replays are featured on Spotify, on Entrepreneur with Entrepreneur Media Magazine, all the platforms. They're all free. My exercises, guys, books, all free. One thing in mind, I'm looking for 1,000 people like you to empower 1,000 people, just to be happy. 1,000 times 1,000 is a million times 1,000 is a billion. Over 1 billion people happy. We could change this world no matter what your politics, religion, sex, interests are. Happiness is the connector. It's a virus that's created simply by witnessing it. It strengthens us mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially. It'll even strengthen your immune system so it'll protect you against other viruses. So everyone out there, join me and let's all be happy.
Bam. I love that, David. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap on True Underdog. Make sure you check out his podcast, his shows, and his books. Thank you. Bam. That concludes another episode here on True Underdog. If you're interested in hearing more, make sure you subscribe at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the YouTube channel. You can always visit TrueUnderdog.com. Subscribe to all of them. Make sure you check out our newest episodes coming out on Mondays and Thursdays. True Underdog, baby. Bam.